Welcome to Courses for Spirit, Spiritual Sundays, streaming live on YouTube and live on Zoom. If you wanted to join the Zoom, then you can, if you just go to coursesforspirit.ca, so that's courses, F-O-R, spirit.ca, and you'll see, and if you go to workshops, you'll see there's a little link, and you can either go click on YouTube Live, or you can actually come and join us on the Zoom if you want to. And I'm Mike Warwick, and hi Mason. Mason Christian is with us, who's obviously in Canada. I'm in London. How are you? How are you today, Mason?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks, Mike. It's good to see you again. Yeah, I feel like we should talk more than once a week. But yeah, meeting once a week with you is really great here. It's nice.
But maybe we could do that. We could be actually, yes. And for people who don't know what Spiritual Sundays or Courses for Spirit is, our YouTube channel is about providing um, a grounded type of spirituality. So just helping people to have a space where you can come if you're growing spiritually, if you're into personal development, however you want to think about it. And we're just gradually creating a bank of resources for people, just looking at spiritual practices and generally just what's it like to transition. I mean, if I speak for myself, I don't know how it was for you, Mason, but for me, I always was interested in spiritual things, but I couldn't have said that I was interested in spiritual things because I didn't have that kind of language. And I was from a family that didn't particularly talk about those kind of things. And I didn't have religion forced on me. And so I've kind of, over the years, I've just gravitated more and more until spirituality became really, really important. And it's really, really important to me now. But it's been a long journey, and a lot of that journey has been just about accepting that spirituality is important to me, and almost getting used to the language and then learning about it, and even just like a change of identity. Whereas I kind of thought it wasn't cool, or you weren't meant to do it wasn't for me. People like me are not spiritual. And so, kind of Courses for Spirit is really for anybody who wants to learn more about the spiritual life in general, not any particular path, and because we are spiritual beings. And that's the truth of it. And you find that out gradually as you go through life. And so Courses for Spirit is a place to sort of learn about that. One of many channels on YouTube, obviously. There's lots and lots and lots of channels, and that's brilliant to see as well. We're new. We're a new channel. We're quite a small channel, so welcome. I don't know, Mason. What do you think? I mean, does that cover kind of what we're doing here today?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's just yeah, I was thinking when you were discussing that, there's a lot of takes on spirituality and there's a lot of opinions, but there's an infinite there's an infinite number of ways to talk about it, and there's so many different opinions and takes on things we would call spiritual. So I just think I don't know, I just think it's good to have our own discussion on it and like, bring in our own ideas on spiritual topics, topics we discover, topics that have been talked about many times. Because really, you never know what one word or what one conversation or what one thought is gonna stick with you or what's gonna maybe open some doors for you. And so, yeah, I mean, I just love talking about all topics on spirituality and, over and over again. Kind of going into the topic that we wanted to talk about today, which is because we were just chatting earlier, and that is the repetition of some of the basics or the repetition of some of the topics that have been spoken about, the most. I mean, we've all talked about meditation a lot. We've all talked about yoga a lot. We've all talked about oneness a lot. We've all talked about the present moment. a lot, which would be fun to talk about today. I think we would talk about the present moment. Um, but yeah, I just find no matter how many times I talk about something I think I know about, I still learn something new. And yeah, even without repeating this some practices over and over again, it can be easy to get into the mindset of, well, I've learned that and I know that, and be kind of dismissive of something. And then, very subtly, you're dismissive of something that at one time was such a great discovery and served you so well, and you applied everywhere in your life. So I think repeating on things helps us to continuously build on top of those things. It's not like we know it and it's done, forget it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a foundation of the spiritual change that I went through was by is studying and becoming a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And in A Course in Miracles, what you're doing is you're unlearning. So you it's not so much that you're learning all these new tech. There's lots of new techniques that you can learn spiritually or practices that you can learn, but unlearning things as well. So beginning to become aware of the voice in your head that is saying, "Oh, that's not for you. You always mess everything up. What do they think of you? Oh, you're such a klutz." And then you kind of you start to recognize that voice, and then start to not believe in it so much anymore. So you're kind of unlearning the way that the way that when we meet people, we typically often we're on guard and we're looking for the differences between different people, and kind of we almost treat everybody we meet as a threat rather than a friend or a brother or a sister or a member of a spiritual family. There's these things that have been sort of built into us through of the course of a lifetime. For me, spirituality, a lot of it has been sort of questioning the things that I assumed to be true before, and then finding a different way with them, and finding a way that's more peaceful, that's more forgiving, that's more loving, dropping the judgments of other people. And the thing that we wanted to talk about today as well is like living more and more the present moment. And so I think before we sort of start talking about that, we it would be a really good idea just to take a moment and just land and have a meditation where we're sort of coming into the present moment. And the way to do that is powerful way to do that is through the breath. So maybe should we do a little bit of guided meditation just to kick us off for today?
Sure. Yeah, of course, Mike. Even I was trying to pay attention to my breath, just as you mentioned it. I'm like, oh yeah, just even breathing, calming, sitting here. But yeah, of course, yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, here's a great technique. It's just a very, very simple one, because if you think about it, what your breath is happening now. So if you're learning to put your attention on your breath, it brings you into the present moment because you're paying attention to something that's real, like the breath in and the breath out is a real thing. And it's really, really important too, because if you stop doing that for a certain amount of time, you're in serious trouble. And so that's two reasons why just the breath practice is so powerful. And the way we're gonna, I think if we're just gonna do it the simplest practice. And to share a story, this is a practice that I used a lot. So, I've spent a bit of time on the boards of various organizations. I was on the board of my school for a time. I was working in school, and I'm a trustee of a local charity. So I spend a lot of time in meetings, and one of the practices that I would do, especially when sometimes you can be in a pretty tense situation at work in a meeting, and your mind can start spinning stories. If you're going to speak at that meeting, you might find yourself practicing what you're going to say as well, and so that means you're not listening to what's going on. or any situation where you're starting to, when you feel under a bit of pressure, you can do this very simple thing, is where you go, okay, the most important thing is my presence. It's not me rehearsing something I'm going to say. It's not me rehearsing what I'm going to do. It's actually me being here right now. Because you know that, because if you're with somebody who's present, you feel their power. You might not be able to put your finger on it, but there's something about that person being present that's comforting or reassuring or impactful. So you can use your breath just to bring yourself into the present moment, and you can focus your mind on your breath as well. So your mind's not spinning and doing things. You're just using energy. It's kind of a waste of energy. It's just what the mind does. And then whatever situation that you're in, you'll find that you're more open to responding intuitively, or to being able to say the right thing in the right way at the right time. So you're accessing the fullness of your being rather than just a kind of a mental projection. So I don't know. What do you reckon? What do you think? What do you think of that?
Oh, that's powerful stuff. I like it, Mike. I don't know. I like it. Yeah. And yeah, I was picturing just coming to like a starting point where we're like a focus every time you come to the present moment. It's like coming to a starting point. And yeah, I don't know, just when you were talking like that, it made me think of that. And that's your kind of lived experience about the present moment and like why it's important to you to do that and how you see it in yourself and others. So like that was your personal take on it. That was really helpful for me to hear. So I don't know. I like it. Yeah. And you have this technique that you were gonna, or did you wanna, that you're gonna show us with this technique?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just so simple. It's just so simple. And again, picking up on your point about coming back to basics, and just repeating the simple things, because you can have a spiritual path where you're studying spiritual texts, and you're watching YouTube videos, or you're trying to learn things, and then you can have also build in practices that you do, and you do them anyway. You do them whether you're feeling good or you're feeling lousy. It's just, it becomes part of your life. You practice these things. I mean, I always say, with a smartphone, you don't expect this to work without charging it up.
Mm,
You don't go, oh, right, it's useless, useless, it's not working anymore. You've got to plug it in and charge it up. And so breath work, meditation, contemplation, reading inspiring things, being around inspiring people, being out in nature. It's like plugging yourself in and charging yourself up. You're going to need to do that. You don't get to a point where this doesn't ever need, it's not working. It just needs, that's just the way it is. It needs charging up. Human beings are like that. We need to meditate, we need contemplation, we need good company, and we need to be in touch with nature. That's what we need.
yeah.
Yeah.
Before you begin, like, how do you make the connection that, breath work, meditation, being in nature, how do you know that is recharging, like, to you? And I think it's a brilliant little metaphor there with the phone, but it's just, I'm just like, yeah. How do you make that connect? Why is it recharging for you, those things?
Well, you know by the way you feel.
Yeah.
We've all got to learn to trust our experience, because there's been there's an education process, and there's a enculturation process that we all go through, where a big part of it is we kind of look for authority outside of ourselves, for people to tell us what's right and what's wrong and what's happening and what's not happening. And actually, there can be an element of that where you begin to distrust your own experience. And a big part of the spiritual journey is you're beginning to learn to trust, you're beginning to trust yourself, you're beginning to trust in yourself, and you're finding out who you are on the deepest levels of self as well. So if you go out into nature and you feel You feel better than when you were sat in the house looking at whatever your phone or whatever you were doing. And trust that if you feel better, then that probably means that your energy levels have been boosted, because going out into nature will boost your energy levels.
Hmm.
You know, if you
Yeah.
spending a
So
few minutes consciously breathing, you'll notice that, there's less tension in your ribs, and there's less tension in your body, and you're breathing a little bit more easily, and your problems haven't changed. Your life circumstances are the same, but you're having a slightly different relationship with them.
yeah. So it's a felt thing for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But when you're breathing also, you're literally taking in energy from the cosmos,
Yeah.
life energy. Yeah. So there's a point at the base of the skull. Hold on, let's see if I can show it this. So I'm just going. So can I? How do I? Here. So it's just here at the base of the skull, where the I don't know if you can
You
see
can
it, where the back of your.
you can feel it. Yeah. You get all that beautiful hair that's sitting in your way there. But yeah,
Oh,
you I think you can feel it too, Mike.
there's a heat there, isn't there? Yeah. So that's called the medulla oblongata. So that place there, that's where life energy actually enters the body. That's how we taught about it when we were studying Eastern practices.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you would you think that's like the spiritual umbilical cord or something? You think that's where you're tethered to what, like source or something? It's what I'm picturing.
Well, they call it the mouth of God. So it's where the energy enters. Okay. And then it reflects in the third eye.
Ah, yeah.
So those two points in the body, those 2 points are connected. So one thing that you can do when you're breathing is you can imagine energy coming in through the base of your skull. And you can imagine it's entering through the base of the skull, and then it's beginning to fill the whole body. And as you're imagining that, because the energy flows where your attention goes. You've probably heard that phrase many times before. So as you're sending those intentions, the power of the human mind is, it's huge, it's massive, it's foundational to the world that we live in. Is the power of the mind. I mean, these are all subjects that we could go into in depth, but today we're going to be talking about
Mhm.
the present moment. How do we stay? How do we why do you want to keep bringing yourself back into the present moment? And ways that you can do that. So one of them we're saying is we're going to just try some breathing, a breathing, very simple breathing exercise. So ideally, you'd be sat up if you can, and you might not be able to sit up because for physical challenges. So you can do this lying down. The challenge with doing it lying down is you tend to fall asleep. If you can sit up with your back unsupported, then that's great, but you might not. You might need a support, so use a support. And if you can have your feet touching the ground, great. You might not be in a situation to do that, then you're just going to be now sitting as comfortably as you can. And then with your eyes open, you just take in 3 breaths like this through your nose, and then out 3 times through your mouth. So we'll do that together. So in 3, out 3, and again. One more time. And then what you probably notice is each time you did that, your capacity sort of expanded. And now, just with your eyes open, if you can put some attention to that spot that we were talking about again, the base of your spine, the medulla oblongata, the mouth of God. And as you're breathing in, breathe in through your nose, and follow with your mind. Follow the breath in, and let it fill your chest. Hold it for a little bit, and as you're breathing out, Now you can imagine you're breathing out any negativity or any stress or any tension. You find yourself yawning. That's absolutely fine. And as you're breathing in, try and imagine that as you're breathing in, you're actually pulling in this golden light into the base of your skull. And maybe you can imagine it filling your head, and then you're breathing out. And then you can imagine that coming in again, this golden light coming in. Maybe it's filling your head, maybe now it's managing to get to your shoulders. Down your back, maybe. Breathing out. And your mind's going to wander off and say, what's this guy talking about? Golden light, whatever. Just go, okay, well, I'm gone off into mind activity, back to breathing in. Maybe that golden light's now filling your chest and all the way down your head. It's working its way down your body. Breathing out. Breathing in. Energy coming in through the base of the skull. Filling your head, your chest, and now your midriff. And breathing out. You can just more or less be breathing normally now. Breathing in. You're breathing in golden light. Now as you've gotten all the way down to your hips, it's starting to come into your legs. Breathing out. Breathing in. Golden light in through the base of the spine, filling the whole body. It's got down to my knees now. I can feel it. It's got to the knees. Breathing out. Breathing in. Coming out through the base of the spine, filling the body all the way down to the shins, getting down to your ankles. Breathing out. And breathing in, and that light is now filling the entire body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And you can just spend a bit of time just coming back to your breath. Let your mind wander, bring it back. Breathing in and out at your own pace. And so, doing that practice when you're out in nature is great, because the trees and the plants and the earth itself knows what you're up to, and it gets involved, and it'll help you. It'll help you do that. Because all of these spiritual practices, over time, they take you out of a world where you're separate from everything and you're fighting with everything, or everything's a danger. And it's almost like you begin to realize that life is here to support you, and actually really, really cares about you, and actually really wants you to become more and more conscious. Because the more conscious you are, the more you realize that the trees are actually beings that they don't just give us oxygen and wood and all that kind of stuff. They also send energy to us. They're communicating with us. And things like that are hard to accept when you hear them for the first time. So go out and experience it. Do the practices. And when I say this, I say it as much for my own benefit as for anybody else's, because, we were talking about this before. It's like coming back to basics over and over and over again. Super important. I find with myself, as soon as I think I'm becoming spiritually advanced, that's my ego. And actually I've lost, that's a good sign to go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, yeah, but when was the last time that you meditated? When was the last time that you offered blessings to people as you passed them in the street? When was the last time that you appreciated the things around you? When was the last time you thought about your creator, however you think about your creator? When was the last time you sent love out into the universe, acknowledging the love that's there?
It's beautiful, Mike.
So
Yeah,
it's
super
about,
cool.
yeah. And there isn't, you can't really, you can, there are breath work practices that are very specific, and you want to be precise with them, and you do want to practice them. But the most basic level is keep coming back to an awareness of your breath as much as you can. Because when you do that, when you're aware of your breath, you do become aware of the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, well, I mean, like we're always in the present moment, but when you're aware of being in the present moment, the wonderful thing about that is you're not thinking about the past. So you put it down for a bit. We tend to pick it back up again, but we at least we can put it down for a bit, and we can be free of the past. And then we stop thinking and worrying and trying to predict the future, so we actually get to enjoy what it's like to be present now. And everybody knows what that's like because everybody's been a kid, and everybody can remember what it was like when you were a kid and you were in the present moment. So if you can remember what it was like to be in a fairly happy place when you were about 10 years old, but if anybody asks me to describe what it's like to be in the present moment, for me, that's what it's like. I'll be walking along and I'll just be looking at the mud on the path that I'm walking on if I'm out in nature, and I'll just be like fascinated by what's growing there. I'm not really thinking about you're in the present moment. I could be sitting in a boardroom meeting and you're noticing the sunlight coming through the windows, and maybe you'll notice the tension on people's faces, or you might notice that somebody's in a quite a serene place, but you're noticing because you're in the present moment. So you see what's there rather than what your mind's projecting onto things. And so when you're present like that, you can make better decisions. So it's a very simple thing: breath and present moment. The two of them go together. I've been speaking for ages. I need to shut up. What, what, what's coming up for you, Mason?
It's comfortable being in the present moment, listening to you describe it. Um, yeah, in so many areas like of life. And I guess it's everywhere because it's kind of always happening. It's just like the eternal present moment always happening. But yeah, the why, like why be in the present moment is coming up for me. And I'm thinking, why is it important for me to be in the present moment? I'm kind of thinking about that while you're speaking. And but yeah, also when you were saying that was okay, so just the tool, like just the technique to get to the present moment is quite simple. So it's like breath, being aware of maybe what's around you, kind of just being the human being. And but then in the present moment, like it's kind of simple to get there, and then it unlocks all this stuff. I think so much can come from the present moment. And then yeah, like I said, my why do I want to be in the present moment? And so yeah, you weren't speaking for ages. I feel like I could listen to you for ages. But yeah, when I'm still in the present moment also, I feel I have, the clearest thoughts or as they arise, like I can observe my thoughts with clarity, right? Rather than just letting my thoughts kind of run on. Jeremy and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I learned about this term through studying a bit of therapy, and this thing called the default mode network. It's just when our brain is kind of on autopilot, and we're just kind of thinking about those repeat stories or those repeat scenarios, or we're sometimes the default mode network that like what we're processing in our brain, it can sometimes be a bit negative. Maybe we're worried about something that's coming up, or we're worried about something that's happened, we've done, and that can kind of just perpetuate a feelings of guilt or shame, right? And like, sometimes you realize, oh, I've been thinking about this thing for 20 minutes and I've been feeling bad about myself for 20 minutes, and kind of all the while the guilt and the shame, those thoughts are releasing are creating feelings, and those feelings are creating chemical reactions in your body with the adrenaline and the, epinephrine, those like spiky chemicals. And then that slowly, subtly drifts you into this sympathetic nervous system state where you're kind of on alert and you're slowly creeping into anxiety. And then even from there, like your parasympathetic system, your rest and digest, your ability to relax and just have your body doing all of its normal functions kind of gets turned off like in the background. And yeah, I find being in the present moment or trying to get towards the present moment like it cuts all that off. You know, it can get you out of that, get you out of the default mode network. And yeah, just sometimes those repetitive thoughts can be uncomfortable. And the present moment can be quite comfortable, I mean, in comparison, right?
Yeah.
So I I just find there's this continuously growing, why am I doing this? Why am I in the present moment? That question continues to evolve all the time for me. And this seemingly simple technique of paying attention to your breath and being aware of what's around you, going into the present moment, like I said, it always unlock every time I go out into this spot in my backyard here where the sun comes up in the morning. It's like the same thing over and over every day. I go and I spend 10 minutes out there, but I'm reflecting on everything else in my life that is changing so fast. And yeah, just feeling like 5 or 10 minutes of warm summer sun on my face after a chilly night, it like almost feels like a treat. And it's like just so vibrant in the present moment there. And like even that alone is like a compelling why. Of course, I could talk for ages also, Mike. I see why you have a lot to share in this. It's just a fun and cool and important topic.
Yeah. So I'd like to pick up on what you said because the people watching it might not have heard of this thing called the default mode network. So maybe we just tease that open for people a little bit. If you think about network, let's think about network. You could think about that as your nervous system, you know. So we know that we've got nerves that run all through our body, connect to our brain, and we know that signals goes through that network, and as a signal passes through that network, the body reacts to the signal that's passing through it. Right? So if the signal is a signal that alerts us to some kind of danger, either in the past or the dangers in the present or the dangers in the future, the body reacts to that with tension and stress hormones. Yeah. And we know if it's a comforting thought and it's a pleasant thought, the body releases different chemicals and we get a state of relaxation in the body. But that's all happening through this network. Yeah. And then mode. So we've got default mode network. So mode is that, are we in hurry mode? Are we in holiday mode? Are we in creative mode? Are we in relax mode? So, we can be in these different modes of being. And then default. So the default one is kind of, business as usual. The one that
Hmm.
we've got used to, and with personal growth and spiritual growth, what we're doing is we've become aware that we want to change, and of course we're changing all the time anyway. But we want to change in a particular. We want to have some say in how our lives are turning out, right? So we don't want to be
Yeah.
we don't want to be in our default mode network. If our default mode network is like everybody's is a mixture of good stuff and not so great stuff. So we're kind of working on that. And one of the ways we can interrupt that default mode network is through becoming more aware of our breath. And like you said, so you're spending sort of 10 minutes in the morning as the sun's coming up, and you're centering, and you're doing, you could be doing that, just that simple breathing exercise, and as you do that,
Yeah.
and as you repeat that, that becomes a habit, that becomes a default mode, and it joins your network. So then your default mode network is beginning to change into something where, you know, it's more in tune with who you're becoming. So an expanded sense of self, your energy increasing, um, overcoming the life circumstances, the things that are showing up in your life over and over again that you want to change. So your default mode network isn't cast in iron; it's plastic, and it can change. The key element in it changing is awareness, and then repetition as well. Repeating you. So just that's just like a kind of a, that's how I understand the default mode network. Did you want to add anything to that, or challenge any of that stuff?
No, no, that's all super, super good. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it back to that because it is like a textbook term, right? But uh and I typically don't love textbook terms, but I just found that 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 was a term kind of worth talking about or worth thinking about. And I like the idea of, because I discuss a lot in therapy, like something, if you can name something, you can understand it more. They say in therapy, if you can name it, you can tame it. So I'm like, oh, this thing that I do all the time, which is overthinking and thinking about the same things over again, and like that process of thinking has a name. Like, okay, I'm doing that thing again. I'm overthinking, or my default mode network is on autopilot. So yeah, another word for it is like, thinking autopilot. But it's cool that you broke it down into a way that you understand it better. Yeah, Mike. And also I just want to talk too about when I mentioned 10 minutes outside, uh I feel like 5 or 10 minutes of being in the present moment is quite a long time. And that, I used to try to meditate for half an hour or an hour, and really, really extremely difficult, especially when it's difficult now, and I don't typically meditate for that long. Um, and I found that difficult because it was like really a tall order, really too challenging to do. So how I started had that 10 minutes in the morning started as the present moment. I started with like 30 seconds. Like, oh, maybe I could only handle 30 seconds of being in the present moment before my mind, my default mode network, my brain just started thinking and had to, oh yeah, that thing, and I just got attached to my thoughts. I could only last about 30 seconds. And that grew into, okay, a minute, 2 minutes, and even 10 minutes can be challenging now. But yeah, the only other thing I was going to add to it was like just what came to me when you were talking was we want to be more conscious, right? I feel the default mode network, or when you're, it's like it's you, but it's closer to your subconscious. I think that way of thinking is built on your subconscious, which is just kind of maintaining itself all the time, or you reside there, your awareness resides there when you're not engaged in something. So when you're not engaged in something, you can fall back onto autopilot mode. And I feel like the present moment brings you closer to that conscious engagement. And if you get practice at just consciously engaging with anything in front of you, including your own thoughts, it doesn't have to be doing the dishes or talking to a person or looking at the screen like anyone's doing now. it's even just observing your own thoughts, like with consciousness. That's when you can, and I suppose you would call that self-reflection. I guess
Yeah,
so, yeah. That's
yeah.
what I had, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so you've raised lots of so the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. We should probably like pick that apart a little bit, and then also you're talking about becoming aware of a thought as a thought. Because I can remember a time. I'm sure you can remember a time. People watching this, you'll be able to remember a time. Or maybe this is where you're at now, is where every time a thought arises in your mind, you take that thought seriously, and you don't even you can be in a position where you don't even realize that you're thinking. You're just so used to thoughts passing through your mind all of the time, you think that's the only way that life can be.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, I think I must have lived my first 20 years like that. I remember my 20s, it was just thinking, thinking, thinking. I was trying to work things out all the time. I drove myself nuts just with the thinking, but I didn't realize that I was thinking because I was just so used to the noise in my head.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that was a function of a healthy brain. You're probably a smart guy. You probably had a lot of good thoughts. You're probably creative. But even though those are all beautiful things, like you can really be like a river. Like you can really get some momentum in that, and it can be really hard to get off the train. And when things are going at train speed, you can miss a lot in life. And then I think that's where this colloquialism, these words, these phrases like stop and smell the roses, right? Like no one's smelling any roses sticking their head out of a moving train, but also really a natural part of your life, like really young mind developing, like processing, growing, creating neurons. Like I'm sure that's probably par for the course for most young folks. And then you get a little older, wiser. Maybe your body slows down. Is that why your mind slows down? I don't know. Not sure.
Well, it was it was spiritual study and spiritual practice and going through a therapy process and all that, and it's a really key point. It's a very basic point. And it's a very important point. Is it's a different you're in a different stage of your life. You're in a different world, really, when you realize that a thought is a thing that's happening and it's not you. And just because you're thinking something doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's real. It's like a thought can be like a movie on a screen. Like the movie could just be a complete work of fiction. And you don't take the movie completely serious because you know you're watching a movie. And so you can begin to develop that kind of relationship with your own thinking where you go, well, those thoughts, and the problem is that when you have a thought, then if we go back to the default mode network, there's a network, your nervous system's a network in your body. When you have the thought, you have a feeling that correlates to the thought. So if you have a thought of danger, your body, you have those panicky, you get that kind of response in the body, which gets you ready for fight or flight. And if you have a thought that feels hopeless, then you kind of drain your body. Your body leaches energy. You start hemorrhaging energy out of your body and you feel deflated. And if you have a thought about somebody who did something really nice for you and how much you appreciate that, then you'll have a different feeling in the body. Right? So the body's reacting constantly to our thinking. So that's how that loop keeps on going. Because you feel it, you think it, you feel it, therefore it must be true. But actually, no. This is the way it is to be a human being. Is our thoughts and our feelings are linked to each other, which is why this simple practice of sitting and breathing, and then you can begin to observe your thoughts a little bit, and you can just watch them. And because you're doing the breathing and you're calming your body, then maybe the response in the body isn't quite so strong. And so you can watch your thoughts, and maybe it might be the first time in your life that you do it, and you're like, "Oh, right, okay." So then you remember the time when you weren't so attached to thinking. So when people talk about awakening, they talk about realization. So it's a realization. It's a remembering. It's a realizing that you're already in the present moment anyway, that you already are whole, that you already, that you are in a spirit, that you are soul. You sort of remember it. It's not something that you add to yourself. It's just you kind of remember it. But just going back to that very basic point, it's a very, very important thing for everybody, for every human being on the planet, is to get to the point where we recognize that a thought is a thought. It's an energy form. How do we know it's an energy form? Well, it exists, but you can see it in your mind, but you can't really see it outside of yourself. You can't grab a hold of it. It's not a physical thing, but it exists, so it's made out of energy. So you can kind of watch the energy. You can listen to it as well, but just with the consciousness that that's a thought. It's not me, and it's not necessarily the truth. And you keep coming back to your breath, and you sit, and this is a powerful practice. It sounds kind of simple, but when you sort of break it down, you realize just how powerfully significant it is. And I think it'd be great for all the people who practice yoga, as in physical yoga, to just add this to your practice, is just to recognize how important the breath is to your practice. And yoga is being practiced by a lot of people, and also it's being practiced by a lot of people as a way to be physically fit and to look good and to get into shape and to be flexible. But actually, you can also, yoga is a spiritual technique. And so if you bring this awareness of the breath and recognizing your thoughts, especially when you're doing yoga, the thoughts about, my God, am I ever going to be able to do this? Am I in position? Or what is everybody, what was that noise? What's that noise? That because that person's breathing, oh, it's me breathing very heavily, or whatever it is, you've got this commentary going on. But you're breathing and just listening to the thoughts. And this is enough just to be aware that the thinking is happening and the thinking isn't you. That's a massive step for anybody's spiritual journey. And I think it's one we all have to keep coming back to. I know I do.
Yeah, if it's works, continue to do that until you get to the next level. Yeah. Um, I'm sure yoga doesn't it mean union, Mike? Doesn't yoga mean like union
Yeah.
with yourself? I think it encompasses like mind, body, and spirit. So it's not even just physically.
Well, yeah, this is how I look at it. Like the whole point of the multiple lifetimes that we have on Earth, and okay, we can talk about multiple lifetimes maybe in another video. So we'll put that to one side for now. Let's just talk about this lifetime on Earth.
Yeah.
The ultimate thing that you would attain in this lifetime is the awareness that you're not separate from the source of everything. You're not separate from the earth, and you're not separate from all the other beings and all the people and all the plants and everything on the earth. So you begin to realize that you are consciousness manifesting through an individual, but that consciousness is the consciousness that's manifesting as everything else. Some people call that God, some people call that universe, some people call that creator, some people call it source. It doesn't matter what you call it. A lot of people don't use God. We could talk about why people don't use the word God, because that's another subject we should probably look at. But so this is so if you're getting to the point where you're even recognizing that thinking is happening, and you're falling into that thinking and you're getting stuck in it for most of the day, but there's times, even a time in the morning and a time in the evening, where you kind of go, I can watch my thoughts. This is incredibly significant and it's huge progress if you can talk about progress in terms of spirituality. So if that's happening for you, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And we're infinite beings, so the journey is infinite. So there's so many different things to explore, and it never ends. That is a significant moment. So take heart, like if that's happening for you, like celebrate it, be glad. Because we're always beating ourselves up, aren't we? Especially people who are kind of serious, kind of spiritual seekers. It's like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I don't do this. I don't do that. But if you are aware of the gap, the space between a thought and the observer of the thought, even if you can't put that into words, even if you've had an experience of it, I think somebody who's fishing probably experiences it, or somebody who's doing running will experience it, or cycling, or I know biting into a nice cake. You might taking a sip of coffee. You doesn't really matter how it happens. It's like just that you're recognizing that spaciousness. That spaciousness is everything.
When we're talking about manifesting, when you said manifesting, Mike, it made me think about, yeah, if your thoughts are repetitively negative or positive. I mean, if our thoughts are influencing our reality, if our thoughts are kind of manifesting things, and yeah, being in the present moment kind of sharpens up our thoughts and maybe polishes our thoughts, maybe puts a positive spin on them, which contributes to the whole manifesting conversation, which yeah is a topic for another day too.
Yeah, I mean they're all big topics, aren't they? It's
Yeah,
we are creating our experience through our perceptions. How we perceive is that's our experience.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how I think about, so on a very basic level, how I think about something. I mean, you probably had this experience before. I mean, I noticed this again when I was in my 20s, and I cottoned onto it. It was like I was meeting people, and my first reaction to them was negative, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like them." In reality, what was happening was I was meeting individuals who were freer thinkers than me, and I felt challenged by them, you know. And then it happened so many times where circumstances would mean that I would be forced to get to know that individual and then really get to like them and admire them. I was like, okay, so I've got some kind of default mode network here where the first time I meet people, I'm suspicious of them straight off. So I couldn't actually change that. I didn't know how to change it. So what I could do was I perceived it differently. So when I met somebody and I took an instant dislike to them, I was kind of like, oh, this could mean that they're actually a good person. And regardless of it, just that was just a thought. Just put it to one side and just like let them earn your trust. Like find out who they are and give people the benefit of the doubt. And that was a way of me coming out of being quite isolated, because if you're always pushing people away, you get isolated, you know. And so I mean, I don't know how I developed the awareness to be able to realize that I was doing that, but I think it just comes to us naturally. And so any little step along the way is something to celebrate, really, I think.
Yeah, I think all of these steps are really important victories, and uh, some in a way, it's like if you break things down past material possessions and all that, like you really only have these steps, right? And these lessons, these spiritual steps that you build, anyways, right? It's what it's kind of what you're guide creating. It's kind of you're guiding yourself with these steps or walls.
Yeah. I mean, all because, the judgment of other people. I mean, if we judge ourselves, then we're going to assume that other people are judging us, and then we judge other people, and we get stuck in judgment, right? So we get stuck in separation. So simple practices, giving people the benefit of the doubt and becoming wise to your own initial reactions, your own default mode network. You know, how what's a habitual thought I have about a certain type of person or a certain type of situation? How many times have I been proven right and how many times have I been proven wrong? So just by asking yourself questions like that, you're on a spiritual path because you're engaging in self-reflection. So there'll be people on spiritual paths, they've not started thinking of it as a spiritual path, and it doesn't matter whether you use that word or not. It's just start to recognize that your awareness is growing, and you can't help that happening because of the time that we're in now. There are people who are being pulled into more reactivity and certainty about being right and seeing enemies everywhere. And there are people who are good people are going, oh God, this can't go on the way it's been going on. What's the answer? I don't know. Traditional religion has been cut off. People aren't choosing that. Some people are, but that instinct in the human being, it's there. It's who we are because we're souls. We're spiritual beings. And so spirituality is the most ordinary, natural thing for a human being to get involved with. And you probably spiritual without realizing it, because it's not about having a kaftan and growing your hair long and wearing jewelry and all that kind of stuff. It's got nothing to do with what's happening on the outside, and it's got everything to do with what's happening on the inside.
Definitely, definitely. Uh, in interact like that topic of reacting to the world outside you or interacting with the world and pausing to think about it and reflect on what's happening in front of you. Um, that would be like a great topic to talk about ahead of time too, or any time. But anyway, sorry, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a huge area, and you and I will have some more conversations, and we'll have some conversations with Jeremy, who's still recovering at the moment from a challenge that he's having. And we'll start. And anybody who's watching this, if you've got any questions that you would like us to take on, or any suggestions for something you'd like us to cover, just stick it in the comments. We do read the comments, and that influences the stuff that we're making. Because our desire is just to be truly helpful. That's why we're here. And so to bring us, so thank you. So this has been Spiritual Sundays with Courses for Spirit. So with myself, Mike Warwick, and Mason Christian. So I'm over in London. Mason's over in Canada. I think it would be great to, we've talked about the default mode network. We've talked about just a very simple way of bringing yourself into the present moment. And I think we've talked a little bit about recognizing that space, that process. So you might be going through a spiritual awakening and not realizing you are because you don't have that kind of language. You're becoming aware of the space between you and your thinking. So there are three kind of big topics that we've touched on today. And I was just wondering if Mason, you would be okay, maybe just closing up for today with one of your wonderful guided meditations. Do you fancy that?
Oh, of course, yeah. I'll yeah, I mean, let's tap into the present moment like now before we go, right? And do kind of this thing we were talking about. And yeah, I mean, I find the way into the present moment could be uh similar all the time. It can be super reliable, maybe is a better word than repetitive. It could be super creative, it could be super kind of new every time. And I find no matter how you enter the present moment, you're always going to see something new in a way because you're always in a certain mood. You're always having certain thoughts. Your life situation just outside this present moment and attached to everything is always changing and breathing and fluxing and ebbing and flowing. So there's actually so much happening all the time. And so every time we just tap into the present moment, we think about, do we want to see what's happening now? Do we want to see what is going on all around us? Do we want to feel it, sense it, or do we want to pause that and take a break from that? Do we want to look at all the happenings that are going on within us? Do we want to or do we want to tap into silence? Do we want to just get regulated? Is that our intention? Do we want to regulate our body with the present moment, slow our heart rate, pay attention to our breath, quell anxiety? So as we kind of just begin in a moment to take a few breaths, try to decide as you're breathing into the present moment, what is your intention right now? What do you want to feel? What do you want to get in touch with right now that may or may not help with the rest of your day, that might carry forward calmness, whatnot? And just casually now start to breathe into the present moment. Just walk past the official starting point of this practice and glide into the present moment, glide into yourself, glide into your body, connecting the present moment to all that is, all that was. Just do a quick body scan, like a version of what we had done before. As Mike, with every breath in, just feel into yourself a little bit more. Bring your consciousness in with the breath. So breathe in with awareness and see where your awareness goes within your body, and breathe out with awareness. And simply begin to notice right now, what type of pattern does your breath want to take on its own? Allow your body to make any adjustments it wants to make. If you want to change your seating position, if you want to yawn, if you have an itch you need to scratch, and just start to allow everything that's going to happen naturally to happen just for a moment. Allow your breath, allow your body to feel what it's about to feel, allow your thoughts. Just begin to comfortably allow everything that's about to happen. If you have a thought, come back to your breath, come back to your body. Come back to every micro tension that you're feeling within yourself, your shoulders, your belly, your legs, your feet. Allow your thoughts, allow your feelings, allow your body to feel the way they're going to feel without trying to change them, without trying to alter them in any way. And see if you can just accept what is happening as you bring awareness to the present moment right now. See if you can hold yourself with some love, with a form of love, almost like you're cradling yourself in your arms. And allow the thoughts to come as well. Allow them to come and go. Extend your arms and they can sit here too. Welcome them and accept them. And just go back and forth between noticing your breath, noticing what's happening in your body, and allowing the thoughts to pass. Back to your breath. Make sure you're comfortable with your breath. It doesn't have to be a certain way. Don't try to make it a certain way. Allow it to adjust. If you need a big breath once, a big breath out, and shallow breathing, just allow that to go towards where it's more comfortable. And without rushing, move from there into another body scan. Can you drop your shoulders a little more? Can you relax your face? Are your eyebrows tensing up? Would your neck feel better if your head was up or down more, or left or right? Do you need to move? And finally, allow any thoughts or judgments you had on those actions to just pass as you start over and notice the breath again, as you nurture the present moment, and as you allow the present moment to nurture you. And when you're ready, slowly come back to the group with us. You can open your eyes, you can open your heart, and you can take whatever is in this present moment right now with you through the next part of your day, however long it lasts. And I hope that feels good.
Wonderful, thanks. Oh, thanks, Mason. That was awesome. Cool. So we'll be here next Sunday at 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which is, what time is that for you in Canada?
I guess it'd be about 11,
It's about 11. It's
11 or
about,
so.
so it's 11 a.m. if you're in Canada. It's 6 p.m. if you're in the UK, and you can always put that into Google to work out yourself. And if you want to join us live again, you can find the link. Just come to Courses for Spirit, the YouTube channel, or go to coursesforspirit.ca for workshops and just click on the link and you can join us either on the Zoom or on YouTube Live. Okay, so thank you and see you next time.